There is one common scaffolding or template that all of the stories from antiquity are built on, and I'm talking about religions, mythologies, and spiritual teachings. That means Judaism, Hinduism, Christianity, etc. Nothing is excluded from this. The template is there. And once we learn to extract it, we can see that all of those teachings contain that same template. When you see people fighting over who's first and who's viable, the template. Everything else is a carrier for it. Now, on my channel, I've been doing a lot of interpretation work and developing this, figuring it out. And the very first creation story that we're aware of that has survived on clay tablets from Babylonia, the Babylonian creation epic or creation myth, the Enuma Elish. It starts there. You can see a lot of that structure appear later on in Genesis and in Greek mythology. What are we going to do with this? What this tells me is that everything else is a carrier shell, that there is nothing valid anywhere except for this template. Does that sound fun? No. It is to me, and it's to a small amount of people, but to most people, it's not going to sound very fun. Humans prefer supernatural and something that is just nebulous out there. I don't know. I can't face reality, but I can face something that I think. As long as my imagination is somewhere else, I think that that is what is happening in humanity to a large degree. Oversimplified. I'm not trying to be scientific there, but the truth is very stark. Fantasy, supernatural, can go anywhere your imagination can bring it. What are we going to do during a lifetime? Sometimes imagination is more fun. The problem is we get carried away with imagination and start treating fantasy as reality, and sometimes that's okay, and sometimes it ends up being hurtful. I see some religion today as being an excuse for a lot of hurt behavior. To me, the same kind of behavior appears in the conspiracy theorist or the lost ancient high technology people and things like that. There's this denial of what is visible and real and simple, and people en masse go invent monstrous, crazy things that not a bit of it can be demonstrated. It's fun, though. Where do the masses go? Do they follow the truth? No, they follow the fun. They follow the fantasy. But that's a topic that's all over on the internet. That's not where I'm going with. I've got something different going on. I realize that the religions are holding something inside of them, and the practitioners of the religions are those who are carrying that template. Let's extract that template. Let's find out what that is inside of there. And I will tell you, it is completely a mental process. It is like taking the story, starting in your psyche, and playing it out inward in your imagination as opposed to playing it out into the world. However, the components that belong in the story actually are analogous to something in the human psyche. Now, I'll try to nutshell this, but I'm going to let you know that the information is complicated and it's deep and it takes a while to explain and it takes long to understand. And I've had comments from people that have said, dude, you ramble too much. Get to the point. We live in a different time today than they did. 2,000, 3,000 years ago, what are they doing? It's like saying, are you gaming? Are you still at it after 5 minutes? Why don't you finish up and be done? What are you learning? What are you doing throughout? You're commuting to work and eating. You should be done in 2 minutes. They didn't live life like we do. This was their media. The stories were their media. It's not going to be understood in 5 minutes. We have to drop our current day biases and understand what they're doing and what they're doing in their society that we're not doing today. Okay, the nutshell part, and there's more detail on this as we get into the videos. They play out this way. The human has a conscious, and we have a subconscious, and we make decisions in life based on our experiences, and we store those away with an emotional charge. Happy, sad, shame, painful. Look back on your life and see where happiness was and what began to happen, where it decayed. These things are being stored. These are going to be considered offspring. Conscious, subconscious, children, male, female, offspring, they're going to be making correlations like that. Analogous things in this, in the world that play out in the psyche and maintain that hierarchy in there. We also have a higher being. This is something we have in the beginning in life. We might remember as kids, having deja vu and reading minds. Oh, you look up at the door and you knew which parent was going to walk in 2 seconds before the door opened and they walked in. Things like that are happening naturally and you don't think much of it. Life goes on and we begin to pile on things and accumulate stuff, and that kind of disappears. It's still a potential there, but we've got it blocked and covered with life experiences. Now, what I'm going to suggest is that appears in the material, that time in our life when we are that way, that emerges as in some of the teachings as a part of our early self before we have begun to develop the issues that we begin to live with. And so we start out in life living from our higher self. And as we experience life and have issues happen, we begin to transition away from living in the awareness of our higher self and begin to live in the experiences, the emotional package, the capsule, the mass of things that we are beginning to accumulate. That is what we are becoming. But our higher self is still there. We want to get back to that. And those life experiences are acting out and causing our life to continue to emerge based on the patterns of those. And as long as they're left in there, they're going to be weeds in the garden, demons that possess us, things like that. They're going to act out. They're going to be triggered. We know what they are. We can see them today in modern psychology. They affect our life, and we need to get a hold of them. We can change our lives by understanding that and by letting things go and learning how to let things go. That higher being, that's a part of us that we can step outside of ourselves and look at ourselves. I think some people can get there very readily and easily. Some people don't understand that at all. It's a point where you in your imagination you're almost like, it's almost like you're looking at yourself from outside. And in that, if you're doing it successfully, you're observing memories without attachment to them. That is your higher being. That is going to be a part of the stories as well. So you've got the conscious, the subconscious that have created the issues, the higher being that needs to come in and interact with the memories. And then not all the material covers it, but some of them do. There is a field that we operate within as well. The Tao Te Ching, the Tao, the way, the flow, the way life flows, the way it works is based on the quality of this mass of the quality of the emotional state of the memories that we're holding up here in mass. And just to be clear, I'm going to grab a Jesus example of that very teaching right there. The one about if you come to the altar to give your gift and you realize before you give your gift that you have aught against your brother, set your gift down, go resolve the aught first, and then come back and give your gift. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you in secret. That's the same teaching. And I'll tell you why. You can carry it out and think it's true, or you can just realize that if you're at the altar looking for, you're going to give God an offering. Why? You're looking for good graces. You want a better life. And while you're looking for a better life and asking for a better life, you realize you've got issues up here that you're leaving in place. Go resolve those first. Then come look for a better life. And now that those things are resolved, your Father who sees in secret, whether it's your Father or not, you don't need to believe in God. You do that and it's going to work. The flow changes. Life changes when you let that stuff go. And it's taught in all manner of ways. And I want to talk about that a little bit because there's a big variety. You can take a very short, compact verse and get a certain teaching out of it, but you could take that verse and turn it into a big, huge story with a lot of details, and the same teaching is still in there, but you have to figure out what's going on. How did I go from conscious, subconscious, and this to other? Now there's other gods, there's other things, there's fallen angels, there's watchers, wait a minute. Is playing out in my psyche? Are you serious? How is that going to happen? And it's complicated. When it becomes like that, like if you were to look at the Enuma Elish, and you can go to one of my my playlist, I've got that in there. But what you will see is that we're playing different roles throughout life. When you're first born and you're not aware, you're one thing. When you become aware and you're happy, you're something different. Once you begin learning and you become hurt, That's a different person. Then you move on in life and you begin to act out. Those are different parts of you that are acting out. The gods that have been created that are raucous now, those are the early life, the party, the drinking, the irresponsibility, the things that are now something that needs to be resolved. And then what happens if you're following the Enuma Elish, what you'll see is that you can't even, you can't destroy those gods. What you do is you remove their power, but they stay trapped. This is analogous for the idea that these are the old issues that are acting out, and you have to take charge of them. They are gods, are called gods because they're in charge when they act out. That's what they're calling them. Once you get them trapped, but they lose their power, that's analogous to the idea of I've now resolved this issue. I still have the memory of it, but it doesn't hurt anymore. These are going to simply emerge like that continuously. And people are going to say, nope, I don't like that. That's wrong. I'm not going to do it. And they're not going to do it. So if you're thinking, oh, this makes sense to me, you're going to be many called, few are chosen. Bingo. Few chosen right there. The many called are carrying it. There is something inside. When you find something in Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Greek myth, Roman myth, and it's the same thing in all of them, you found what's there. It's very expertly hidden, but once we play it out up here, we've just forgot how to do that. And that's that's something we can do on our own. We don't need anything special for that. Imagination. That's what we need. Imagination and time. And an open mind and a willingness to find this. At any rate, if this sounds interesting to you, go ahead and feel free to look through my channel. I've done a lot of, my earliest stuff is how I started out in life. The videos aren't that great. I was learning, and there's a lot of messed up, audio and video. Things didn't look that good. I eventually got better lighting and stuff and improved. But I think everything is still, you can hear everything that's there. The story is still there. And I do interpretations where you'll see that I'm actually growing and learning and developing as it goes along. This is something that I think is a very viable process. We're just like, I'm re-exploring it. I'm finding it. It's viewable. It is viewable. Feel free to look through, though. The most recent videos are getting more into it a little bit more. I'm currently working on demonstrating how Genesis and the Argonautica are both built on the template of the hero's journey. That's just the easy example to look at. Jason was hidden as an infant. Moses was hidden as an infant. Jason struggled to leave the island behind, indicating leaving the past behind. Moses couldn't escape Pharaoh. At first they was told to go, then back. Pharaoh comes after him, and then they escape again. These are indicators of difficulty of leaving the past behind, and they're sequencing next. Then what happens? Jason finally sails away from them, and they go through the clashing rocks, and they have to invoke the help of a god to get through, indicating going into the narrow passage into the subconscious. Moses parts the sea with the help of God. They go through, closing off the past behind them. These are the elements that we're looking for, not the story itself. The story is a wonderful carrier. You play it out in the psyche, strip off the analogs, and you realize, okay, not many people are going to do this. You have to leave your past behind. You've got to turn inward. You have to defeat the demons that are inside of you. And it's going to be the warrior's path. And it's going to be for a very small amount of people. And that procedure that we go through right there, that is actually what becomes the template. We call it a template, but actually nobody made a template and we're supposed to follow it. The template is how we heal. You first become aware that you need to. You become aware that it's you that has the issue. You turn inward. You see it. You can't sequence it differently. The template can't be, I return and everything is okay. Now I'm going to go defeat my demons. Now I've been called. That's backwards. The template exists on our path. The template is actually the healing path. Anyway, look through, there's some playlists where I'm getting specifically into doing some shorter verses with making comparisons with Jesus, Buddha, Lao Tzu, and I'm now getting into larger bodies of work. And Anyway, having fun with it. It takes a while, so welcome aboard if you're interested in it. And I'm always eager to talk to people about it. Love one another. I'll see you in the next video.